And then recall a meaningful cross-cultural experience. What was something you learned? So just to elaborate on cross-cultural, it could be traveling to another country. It could just be an experience where you were just totally outside your element. So not necessarily travel, but again, we invite you to turn to some people around you and chat a little bit, and we'll get started in a few minutes.
Hello. Hi. Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to those in person and those online. My name's Sarah, and I am one of the ministers here at Meeting House Church. And if you didn't hear Andrew, what he had shared is that we are in the second week of a series about saying yes, grounded fundamentally in God's yes to us. And then the ways in which with our lives we're invited to both say no, but also yes. And today is also Mission Sunday, and it's where we'll be unveiling some of our new missional partners, some who are even in the room with us here today, so we're really excited about that. And as we were thinking about today being Mission Sunday, And thinking about saying yes, a clear text came to mind and a story from the book of Acts about a yes, actually a few different yeses that were said. So I'll invite you to follow along as I read the text aloud. This is from Acts chapter 16, verses 6 through 15. They traveled through Phrygia and Galatian territory because they had been prevented by the Holy Spirit from preaching the word in the province of Asia. When they reached the frontier of Mysia, they thought to cross through it into Bithynia, but the Spirit of Jesus would not allow them to cross. So they went through Mysia and came down to Troas. Then one night, Paul had a vision. A Macedonian stood before him and said, "Come over to Macedonia and help us." After this vision, we immediately made efforts to get across to Macedonia, convinced that God had called us to bring them the good news. We put out to sea from Troas and set a course straight for Samothrace. And by the way, if you don't know how to say Bible words, just pretend and keep going. And the next day on to Neapolis. It's like getting people to say Minnesotan towns, right? From there, we went to Philippi, which is one of the bigger cities in Macedonia and a Roman colony, and spent a few days there. On the Sabbath, we went along the river outside the gates, thinking we might find a place of prayer. We sat down and preached to the women who had come to the gathering. One of them was named Lydia, a devout woman from the town of Thyatira who was in the purple dye trade. As she listened to us, Christ opened her heart to accept what Paul was saying. After she and her household were baptized, she extended us an invitation. If you are convinced that I am a believer in Christ, please come and stay with us. We accepted. So this is our text today from around this idea of saying yes and the Macedonian dream that we'll be talking about. I'm going to give you a couple prompts to just be ruminating about because we'll have some time for breathe in and setting up this text a little bit more. But we're going to have a time for us to hear from one another about our own stories and experiences. And so later on in the service, one of the questions that you'll be invited to consider is, what is an experience that you've had with someone or a people group who are different from yours, another culture, another way of being or seeing the world? And how have you been opened up through that? Maybe your faith, your life, the way that you've thought about things has changed through that experience, okay? So that'll be one of the things we'll be sitting with today. The second is a question: when has saying yes meant actually decentering yourself? Like passing the baton, not just being the one to say, I'm on the stage, but it's someone else's turn. So just invite you to think about that as you consider what it means to say yes. And before we go into our first song, which reminds us of how we are all connected, let us pray together. Will you pray with me? God, this morning I'm reminded of how in the earliest birth of the church, that the good news was heard in every language that was known at the time. It was a community that was birthed in the midst of a beautiful diversity. And God, sometimes when we're just living our lives and doing our thing, we think our way of doing and being is the way or the right way, and or we think it's our job to save or fix or heal or whatever. But God, I pray that this day, in a new way, you would remind us of the dreams that you dream in and through every single being. God, might we listen to and hear from one another, and in so doing, hear you. May we know where our yeses are inviting us, and where someone else's yes is important to heed. And in all these things, might we hear your yes to us, and might we live that yes in the world. For it's in your name that we gather. Amen. I invite you then for our first song. If you want, you can stand. This is a song, Brother. Let's sing together.
Ramblers in the wilderness where we can find what we need. We get a little restless from the searching, get a little worn out in between. Like a bull chasing a matador, it's a man left to his dreams. Everybody needs someone besides them, shining like a lighthouse from the sea. Brother, let me be your shelter, never leave you all alone. I can be the one you call when you're alone. Sister, let me be your fortress when the night winds are driving on. Be the one I like the way. Face down in the desert now, there's a cage locked around my heart. No way to drop the keys when my failures were. Now my hands can't reach that far. I ain't made for rivalry. I can never take the world alone. I know that in my weakness I am strong, but it's your love that brings me home. Brother, let me be your shelter, never leave you all alone. I can be the one you call when you love. Sister, let me be your fortress when the night winds are driving on. We don't wanna light the way. And when you call and need me near, say where'd you go? But I'm right here. And on those days when the sky begins to fall, you're the blood of my blood. We can get there. Brother, let me be your fortress when the night winds are driving on. Be the one to light the way, bring me home, home. Sister, let me be your fortress. Make me all alone. Brother, let me be your fortress when the night winds are driving on.
You may be seated. All right, now we have our dismissal to God's garden, so I'd like to invite all of our kiddos to come on up to the front as we get ready to sing our God's garden song. And it's a race. Who can get up here first? Ready, set, go. You got high five me to win. High five me to win. First place, second place, third place, fourth place. Ainsley, fifth place. Fifth place, Fiona, sixth place. We've got so many prizes. Seventh place. Hi, what's your name? All right, scoot towards me, scoot towards me. Awesome. Everyone's a winner, by the way. You didn't have to actually rush. False sense of urgency. Okay, let us sing our God's Garden song. Band, take it away.
Come to the garden, gather round, come without fear, know thy name, here in God's garden, all are welcome here.
Everybody.
Come, oh come to the garden, gather
Beautiful. All right, kids of God's Garden, on the count of 3, as loud as you can, I want you to scream. Bennett, you're so ready. Okay, I want you to scream, "Hi, church." All right, as loud as you can, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. It's very good. It's very good. Very good. Okay, church, on the count of 3, I want you to yell out, "Have fun, kids." Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Have so much fun. We'll miss you. We won't forget you. If you are in nursery or pre-K, you're going to head out this door with Ainsley. And if you're in elementary, you're going to head out the back door with Colleen. Have so much fun. Yeah, no more Johnny Cash. That's all right. That's great. Hi again, my name is Andrew, in case you don't know me. I'm one of the ministers here. If this is your first time here, we're so glad you are. Welcome. As we think about the theme, I know Sarah already read our verse, the Macedonian dream. We'd like to take a moment to breathe in, to reflect, to be introspective. We are going to invite you, if you're comfortable, to continue that table talk, to continue to learn from one another, hear from each other's stories, maybe get that insight, that perspective. So, I'm not going to be super long because I'm not giving a sermon this morning, but a little bit of my story is that I became a Christian in high school, and then I was super zealous. I went to business school, and it's funny, we were just talking about this at Theology on Tap the other night. Plug for Theology on Tap. But I went to business school, and I was just so adamant. I'm like, I'm going to be the most moral and ethical businessman out there, which is possible. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it was pretty quick as soon as I got there that I was like, ooh, absolutely the most life-giving, best part of my year is in the summer when I'm working at this Christian summer camp working with students. And I was like, ooh, I feel like that means maybe I should become a youth pastor. And so even though I had this trajectory, I did feel strongly that God was highlighting kind of who I was, my passions, my strengths. And then even when I decided to go to seminary, which I did here at Bethel, I had this dream of I'm going to work. I grew up in the suburbs, so I'm like, I'm going to be like all those adult volunteers, like the youth pastor that I grew up with, and I'm going to work in the suburbs. I'm going to be the cool youth pastor who's playing Xbox and eating Taco Bell and be like, so how's school going? That kind of thing. And then when I was in seminary, I was going to a church plant in Frogtown, St. Paul. And there was a church plant that was focused a lot on multiculturalism and racial reconciliation. And I remember the church planter there, we had breakfast at Perkins, and he kind of slid me a blank piece of paper. And he's like, hey, I know you've got that internship at Colonial right now. I want you to be our youth person, our youth director. I can't really pay you. We don't have any kids. We don't have a program, but I want you to do that. And I'm not gonna lie, it sounded appealing. I was like, wow, this is gonna stretch me. I do feel drawn to living in Frogtown and working with families and students there. So again, what I thought it was gonna be wasn't what it was gonna be. And then I did that for a few years, and kind of full circle, I'm back. But I feel more grounded. I feel more integrated. I feel like I've had experiences that I think have better equipped me to do this in this season. So all that to say is a lot of times things don't go the way we think, especially when we're thinking about interacting with other people. We're talking about ministry work and the work that Paul did. To reiterate some of the things that Sarah even said, the early church, it's not like they were here's our strategic plan, we're going to go here, and then we're going to go here, and then that's how we'll grow. They're actually really receptive to the Spirit. There's a lot of places they thought about going, and they're like, actually, it seems like that door's closed. We should not go there. And eventually Paul has the dream or the vision where the Macedonian man is calling him and his team there. And what ends up happening is that Lydia, a woman, is the one being like, hey, let me help you. I hear you, I hear the message, I accept the message. Actually, let me provide for you. So again, just completely flipping the narrative, even in a dream. So as we reflect on this topic this morning, I encourage you to think a little bit, and when you're ready, if you want to, you could share with your neighbors. In what ways are we the collective we or you individually, connecting, engaging with folks outside your comfort zone, or maybe like outside your in-group, or just folks that you don't encounter on a normal basis. And then you might have an assumed goal or intention when you're interacting with these other folks. So how do you compare that to how might God actually be working in ways that you don't expect? So that one's hard because I'm asking you to name what you don't know. But dream a little and wonder a little. So we'll give you a few minutes to do that. Turn to your neighbors, look around, see who's by themselves, invite them in. Have a great talk. This is your 1-minute warning.
Lights fly in these trying times, making it harder for the truth to survive. Trapped in a burning house, ain't got enough water to put it out, and everyone's looking for someone to put them out. Is it me? Is it you? Many will claim to know the way to fight through the flames, take us back to greater days. Don't follow blindly, find do what way it may. 'Cause no striking matches are passing the blame. Ooh. Pass it on. Be a hero. Pass it on. You'll find the water. Pass it on. You wanna be a hero. Pass it on. When you find the water. Pass it on. Be a hero, pass it on. You'll find the water,
Thank you, band. Today we have Cisse leading us, and we have Rick on drums. We have Paige stepping in to do a little singing this morning, and we have Mr. Alan Church on the electric vibrations. Well, hi again. So I'm going to do a little bit more setup for our text, just kind of note a few things, and I'm going to then turn it back to you at your tables. And then I'm going to see if there's anyone who would like to share some of what's bubbling up with our whole group. And so I'm telling you that just to give you little prompts here and stuff. So I'm just going to say a few noticings myself that I have as I looked at this text. Could we get the text back up on the screen from Acts 16? You can feel free to also Google it. There are some Bibles also on the back table if you're here in person. Okay, so just a few noticings, right? And you may have your own, so be thinking of those as I'm going to make some of my own noticings. The one is, right, they're basically trying to go places. And they think, they're kind of like, okay, what if we go this way? What if we go that way? And it seems to just not be working out. We're not told exactly why that's the case, but they definitely have a sense, they think they should go somewhere, and it's not happening, it's not working out, okay? And then what ends up happening, right, is that then in this vision Paul has, a Macedonian man is like, hey, we need help, okay? One of the things that strikes me about that is they had been trying to go to these places, and then it was actually someone from Macedonia who's like, hey, we need help over here, right? That was being vocalized, the person naming it. Think about whether it's in community development or in relationships with friends or family, maybe someone struggling with addiction, right? It's about honoring one another and the agency of one another. Like, I can't just decide for you, you need my help, right? So they hear in this dream this person saying, hey, we do need help, so they go that way, right? And so they go to the places. Go to the next slide. And so then they go to Philippi, one of the bigger cities there in Macedonia, and they end up going to a place outside the river where they think that it's a place of prayer. It's one of the areas where people would gather for worship, for prayer, etc. And then they run into this woman named Lydia, okay? As Andrew noted, a woman, and she ends up being the person who ends up, spoiler, bringing the gospel further in, and like that's how the gospel ends up going in. Right? They had been trying all these different ways, and then the gospel furthers through the connection and the work with her. And so another thing that strikes me, it's this businesswoman who's from the place, and she's the one who she ends up believing, and she invites them to come and stay, and they end up saying yes. And through that relationship, then she ends up encountering more of her neighbors, etc. So also think about the ways in which sometimes you can think, oh, it's my job to go to that place. But like, you don't know the place, you don't know the people, you don't know the cultural norms, you don't know the rules. And here's this leader who's in the community already. And she ends up being the person who, through that connection with Paul, the gospel goes in. So it makes me think of a lot of different things that may bring up stuff from your own professional work, your own life. But I wanted to ask you a couple questions to consider and then talk a little bit more at your tables. And if there's something that's bubbling up that you'd like to share of your story, I'll give you a few minutes at tables and then to come forward. Here's the two questions. Let's see. The one is, how have you learned or been opened up by interacting with another culture or another way of being? What's some things, maybe your faith has changed, your life, some ways that you see the world by being able to hear how someone else sees it differently from you, okay? So something around that. And then, has there been a time in your life where maybe saying yes ended up looking like that, decentering yourself? It ended up looking like passing the baton. It ended up recognizing that there were leaders in a community or in a place who really just needed some solidarity and some support from you, not for you to do it for them. This could even be in your family or with kids or things like that, right? So take a few minutes with these, or if there's anything else from this text that jumps out to you. And then I'll extend some invitations if some of you would be willing to share a little bit of what is just sitting with you from this text in your own story. Okay? Let's take a few minutes to talk with one another. So isn't it cool that just by sitting at our tables with one another, how much story that we each hold in our own stories and connection to a text like this? So I just wanted to check in and see, is there anyone who's willing to be a brave soul today to share a little bit more of their own story or experience or reflection in conversation with this text? I see you standing up, Jason Phillips. You probably don't want to do that right now. Jason Phillips, everybody. He's like, I am going to get more coffee. Okay, Lisa's going to come up and share with us. Let's give Lisa a round of applause for being willing to share with us. Cool. So yeah, just take a couple minutes and share whatever you want.
Whatever I want. Wow, okay. She gives me the microphone, and I'm a teacher, so settle in. No, really. I am an art history teacher at a public charter school, and I had been sharing how it feels every day I have cross-cultural experiences because my students come from all walks of life, and my school is 84% not white now, which is different than the high school that I graduated from. But when I think about this passage, it's really lovely because the person that really I focus on, I love the story of Lydia, and it says that she, and we know that she was an important person because of the little line that says that she was a dealer in purple cloth. And because of my art history background, I happen to know that that is a big deal. Because to get purple, only the kings, the emperors, royalty, the elite people in any society will get to wear the color purple. Because to get the purple dye, it took thousands, and I don't remember the name of this little mollusk, but these little shells that come in the Mediterranean, and they would be crushed to make the purple dye. So we know from this story that she's already in place to work with important people in Macedonia. And so Paul then, he just follows the Spirit, and I'm like, okay, this is, and now we look back on it, it's like, that was a really good plan. So sometimes we just have to follow the Spirit and let God do his things, and there's people already there to do it, and I don't have to be the teacher all the time.
Thank you. Also, isn't it cool when our professional lives open up profound things that the rest of us don't know? Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, anyone else from your own experiences? Yeah. Do you come up, Barb? Thank you. I know this is let's give Barb a round of applause for being willing to share. Hi, Barb. Thanks for sharing.
Sure. Okay. So my name's Barb Seberg, and I was telling the table, and some people at the table already knew this, but a couple of years ago when Afghanistan was being evacuated and the U.S. was leaving, etc., Council of Churches apparently came to us and said, could you be ready to sponsor a family? I think Elgin had a lot to do with this somewhere along the line because he was involved in refugee stuff already, maybe? Anyway, yeah, I'm blaming somebody. So, and so I signed up to be part of the team, and I told the women who were running the team that I would just be in the background and do stuff like help get goods and, get kitchenware and that kind of stuff. And so we did that, and we got them settled. It was a family of 10, and the only person that spoke English was the 19-year-old son. And all these people from this wonderful church got them, somebody found them a living space, and we furnished it, and somebody else helped get all these kids, all 8 of them, into school, except the oldest boy. And the oldest boy got a job at a wonderful company in Eden Prairie. Anyway, 2 years later now, they have just bought a house in Coon Rapids, which to me is an amazing story. The oldest son is he's moving his way up a little bit. He's on the assembly line of a instrument company. He wants to go to college. He has a high school degree from Afghanistan, and his uncle went back to Afghanistan and somehow got his diploma. So he's now exploring college, they're in a home. One more son will graduate from high school at the end of next year. And it's just been an amazing thing to watch and be a little tiny part of. But to see them come here, and of course, culturally, I was saying to my table, one day I went down to their house to help Irfan with something with a phone. And they were all sitting on the floor having lunch, and there's Afghan music playing, and I'm trying to do stuff on the phone, and I don't understand half of what anybody's saying. And I'm thinking, I'm just a little girl from Morningside. What am I doing here? But it was a terrifically rewarding experience, and anyway, different culture, different experience, really amazing.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. Do we have one or two other stories that anyone would want to share? Yeah, come on up. Hey, yay. Let's say yay. Thanks, Amanda.
I haven't even shared anything yet. I know. So my husband is in seminary, and he was doing a chaplaincy at HCMC, and he was invited to celebrate the iftar with a Muslim community in the Cedar Riverside neighborhood. It was so amazing. We shared like food with them, and I don't know. And they were just so welcoming, and they shared their faith with us, and they also welcomed us into their prayer areas, and it was just a really beautiful experience. So that's what I wanted to share.
Thank you, Amanda. Thanks. Is there one more of anyone? Yeah, come on up, Josh. I jokingly had gone up to Josh. You know, like I went around to some of you and did the joking, not joking, like if you want to come up and talk, you can, sort of thing. And you're here. Hi. Did we already applaud for you? No. Oh, let's do it.
Right away, I started thinking about when I was 12 or 13. Me and my dad couldn't remember, but I was given the opportunity to go to Peru when we were still doing that as a mission trip. And going to a very impoverished section of Peru. And we were teaching English as a summer camp to the kids. And I remember there was one night where I was given the opportunity to go and spend the night at like the pretty much college dorm with I think 10 or 15 young men who were there. And only like 2 or 3 of them spoke English well enough for us to get any sort of conversation going. And I remember just saying yes right away and then automatically going, I don't speak Spanish. I don't know how this is going to go. There's only one other person from our group who said yes too, and they didn't even spend the night. They ended up going back to the place that we were staying. So I remember just being the only person that was there, completely out of my comfort zone, and it being one of the best experiences of my entire life, of seeing the camaraderie, even though we were from very, very, very different ways of life and backgrounds, and just seeing the level of care that they showed me, and they were all so happy that I was there and that I said yes, and ended up being a very, very fun night that I don't think I will ever forget, and led me to saying yes to a lot more things that were completely out of my comfort zone that have brought me friendships and connections that I will cherish for the rest of my life.
Well, I know this is just a like little, what do you say when you put your toe into the water of like the depth of actually the stories that you all hold. And I just hope that this morning can be an encouragement from the book of Acts of, as we are talking, and we're going to see a video in a minute that's announcing our new missional partners. Just that encouragement and the reminder of the beauty of how God shows up, and God is already present throughout the world. And sometimes our invitation is just to hear and to listen and to honor and to partner with and be in solidarity. And so we have the opportunity through these partnerships to be able to say yes to the places and the people where God is already saying yes. And so I invite you now to just watch along as you'll hear about some of our new 3-year partnerships and then 1-year partnerships, and I'll say a little bit more after the video.
Good morning, Meeting House Church. To both those here and online, welcome to Mission Sunday. On behalf of the missions team, I have the privilege to share the mission partners selected for this year as part of our new missions team program developed by the team. Before I do that, let me acknowledge that the work accomplished over the last 8 months was done by a great team. I introduce to you the missions team for 23-24. The missions team made selections based on the applications submitted and with the funding determined by the approved budget. 3-year partnerships will be reviewed annually, and 1-year partnerships will have an opportunity to reapply next year. A similar process of review, evaluation, and selection as done this year will take place next summer. The areas of focus for missions are housing and homelessness, food insecurity, community care, along with international support. You will be introduced to the leadership and/or our contact at the organization, the champion or advocate from our faith community, and view a few pictures from our 3-year partners. Our 1-year partners are included, but will be highlighted in the months ahead. Please watch for updates in the weekly e-news and our Sunday bulletin. With that, I'm excited to announce our mission partners. Under housing and homelessness, Avivo Village, the first ever indoor shelter of 100 tiny homes, provides temporary housing and wraparound services to adults experiencing homelessness who are living on the streets. Oasis for Youth aims to be the trusted resource committed to evaluating youth in their own community. They imagine the communities of Bloomington, Richfield, and Edina as places where every young person has an opportunity to thrive. Urban Homeworks is a community-centered nonprofit based in North Minneapolis that uses stable homes to build strong communities and strong communities to advocate for equitable housing system. Under food security, Community Emergency Service is a client-centered organization responding to food insecurity through 4 core programs: Food Shelf, Home Delivery, Meals on Wheels, and Annie Meals for one of Minnesota's most underrepresented ethnically, culturally, and religiously diverse neighborhoods. VEEP is the Twin Cities' largest food pantry, providing access to healthy foods, social services, and financial assistance. Under community care, Young Life in North Minneapolis is a ministry that radically pursues kids in order to love them the way the Creator does, supports them in life, and shares the invitation of living life with Christ. Our 1-year local partners. Every Meal is a Minnesota-based nonprofit organization with a mission to fight child hunger through community and school partnerships through its weekend meal programs. Freedom's Works' mission is to provide a comprehensive faith-based reentry and recovery program for those released from incarceration, leading to life transformation in Jesus Christ. Pilgrim Center for Reconciliation sets the table to invite people into a life-changing journey toward reconciliation with God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and with other people. Southside Family Nurturing Center provides trauma-informed, therapeutic, early childhood education and family home services to families in the Phillips neighborhood in South Minneapolis. Whittier Wildflowers Preschool, located in South Minneapolis, provides children and families from all backgrounds an innovative, affordable early childhood education in a fun, faith-based community where love and learning grow. Our 1-year international partners. Hope International invest in the dreams of families in the world's underserved communities as they proclaim and live the gospel. World Relief is a global Christian humanitarian organization that seeks to provide relief for vulnerable people around the world who are suffering as a result of violence, poverty, and injustice. Our previous international ministries will be honored later in the year with a gift for their many years of partnership. In continuing with the theme, Say Yes, please consider how you will say yes to meet with our neighbors. This church has a long history of serving and being in mission, and this year brings new opportunities for how you can say yes.
So thanks. I see some of our both advocates for the ministry partners and some of our partners are in here today. So thank you so much for being here. Just a few notes for those of you who are present in person. Mission booklets will be available at the doors as you leave the space, and it has some information about our partners. And then our 3-year partners are actually in the hallway after the service, along with some tasty treats, including some sambusas and some donut holes and some other stuff like that. And then you'll see there's also a big blackboard following from last week about how will you say yes to meeting with Jesus and meeting with one another. Today, the center question is how are we going to say yes to meeting with our neighbors? And so invite you to take a look and do that. If you're with us online, we'll be extending some invitations this week for how you can join in, and you can also go on the website and learn more about our ministry partners there. So then just a couple other announcements that I have for you. The one is an invitation to everyone starting this Wednesday night. We're going to have a 3-week series, both for folks who've maybe been around for a long time and or if you're considering membership this fall. It's How We Church is the name of the class. And we're going to be talking about congregationalism and how we want to do it in this place and what does it mean for us to be church with one another. There's dinner starting at 5:30, and then we'll have the class. Again, it'll run 3 weeks. If you have any questions about it, you can feel free to email Christian Collinswin or me. I'm just kidding. Or just show up on Wednesday night. We'd love to have you join us for that. And then next Sunday, we're also kicking off our Christ in the Crowded Table. It's a class that happens in this space and online right after the services in the morning at 11 a.m. And then also just want to let you know that tied to those how we meet with Jesus, meet with one another, and meet with our neighbors, we're going to, in the next weeks, be leaning into sharing with one another more about the visioning work that we've been doing the next year as we're clarifying that vision. And we're going to have a retreat format on October 14th where everyone is invited. We're going to keep fleshing that out. What is our vision? What then are our priorities and our strategies that we're going to keep living into as we seek to be church together? So I invite you to please mark your calendar for that on the 14th of October, and more will be coming in the next week on that. So with that, I'm going to invite the band up for our final song before we get to go out and interact and engage with our ministry partners. And I just wanted to say one really cool thing about this song. How many of you have heard the song Amazing Grace? Right? I mean, you kind of can't go very far without having heard it. I don't know how many of you know the background of this song, but John Newton, the person who wrote it, he had been involved in the slave trade. And he had ended up having an awakening to how he had been harming people in a sense that God calls us to be with. And so the words, when we sing Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me, he knew what it was to live in a way that harmed others, that stole humanity and human people. He ended up becoming an abolitionist, and he got to live to see Britain enact an anti-slave trade law. So when you think about this song and the call to be with and the dreams that God is dreaming, God keeps dreaming those dreams by the Spirit, and it's a work of life and of love and of hope and of grace. So might this song be a benediction, but may it also be a challenge, that we would be a people who say yes to being with and say yes to this grace. So I invite you to stand and let's sing our final song, Amazing Grace.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious that grace appeared the hour I first believed. Just knows I have already known. That brought me safe as far, and grace will lead me home. When we've been there 10,000 years, I shine. Countless days to sing God's praise, and when we first
Love a good double time there. As we consider this amazing grace, may we be open to how God's Spirit is moving, how we could be dreaming with God and with one another, and meet with our neighbors. So after this, go talk to a mission partner, go have a sambusa, and go meet with your neighbors. Have a blessed week.